Hello, I'm Amanda Hampson and I'm here tonight to talk about my new book, Lovebirds. So I hope we're going to have a few people join us to discuss this book. I wanted to thank the team at Better Reading, Cheryl and Jane particularly, for having such a great platform for authors to be able to come and talk to readers and to connect readers and authors. Another benefit of us all being locked at home is the fact that we've now got all these new platforms for us to connect with the readers, which is great. I have in the past been to the Better Reading office, and I have to say this is a lot more convenient because it's completely on the other side of Sydney to me. So it'd be great to see who is on board, and if you've got any questions, any comments, that would be great. So I'm here to talk about Lovebirds. So Lovebirds is my 6th book. As you can see, hi Helen, hi Louise. As you can see, I have a little display right here, beautifully set out, of my previous books. Some of you may remember the Olive Sisters, as in fact, this is the original Olive Sisters that I found. Hi, Kate. Oh, Pam. Hi, Pam. How are you? Hi, Jane, Yvonne. And so the Olive Sisters was my first book, and then I wrote a book called Two for the Road, which I think some of you have read. Hi, Helen. And then I had quite a big break. Hi, Tracy, Glenys, Sharon, Jill. I'm looking forward to reading my new book. And, we've got Glenys from Tasmania. I'm about to go on my first ever visit to Tasmania. It's very exciting. Hi, Nalima. Hi, Glenda. Oh, you're just starting Lovebirds and you've read the other books. That's great news. Hi, Mary and Lynette. So, yes, I had quite a big break in between writing Two for the Road and the French Perfumer because I got involved in a potentially a film of the Olive Sisters and spent many hundreds of hours working with producers and writing scripts, but that did not come to be. And then I went back into writing novels. Hi, I've got Anne, Kylie, Rosemary. Hi, Carol from the Blue Mountains, but it's cold up there tonight. So then when I sort of came back from that time of, being away from writing a novel, actually writing a novel seemed like a very, very easy thing to do after being involved in the film industry where everybody has something to say. Whereas when you write a book, you write it and you send it to your editor and they do a little bit of work and it's published as it is. Every word in it is yours. Oh, hi, Geraldine and Kim. So I wanted to write The French Perfumer because I just saw so many dark books on the shelves. There was so many books about domestic violence and child abuse, and I like to read about things that are authentic. But I start reading a book and I'm about to go to sleep, and this is just distressing. I can read the papers, so that's why I wrote The French Perfumer. I see you enjoyed it, Margaret. It was a bit of fun, wasn't it? A few twists. It was fun to write. Hi, Letitia from Esperance. Question here, do you spend many hours a day writing? Look, I spend about 3 or 4. I use a system called a Pomodoro, which is a little red tomato that is an app on your computer. And it is, I set it for 40 minutes and I write for 40 minutes and then I take a break, and that's actually when I do all my housework. So actually, the minute that bell goes, I go and I put a load of washing on, and then I do 40 minutes more work, and then I put the washing out, and then I come back and do 40 minutes more work. The reason being that you can waste a lot of time faffing around doing your housework instead of doing your writing. So it kind of overcomes that procrastination. I just want to say hi to a few people. Kylie's from Adelaide. It's freezing here. Okay. Tanya and Claire. Hi, Claire. And Kylie. Are there other authors I love to read? Well, I read really diversely. I just finished Candace Fox's book, The Chase, which was fantastic. And I just found this book when I was out walking, Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking, in a street library, and I'm reading that. So I'm reading all sorts of different books, some literature, some, mainstream fiction, crime. Hi, Tracy, I'm not a plotter. I am an absolute pantser. I have no idea what is going to happen. So if other people might be familiar with that term, plotter or pantser, basically some people plot everything in the book, and I did that for Two for the Road, and then I wrote a completely different book. So at first I thought, oh, this is fantastic. I've got this kind of map that I just need to work from. I know what's going to happen, all the chapters. But I don't want to sound fancy, pantsy, arty, farty about it. But when you get the characters on the page, you have to make them authentic, you have to kind of listen to them and, imagine what they might actually say. I just can't see how you can really plan it. Jane, you love Lovebirds. That's great. Yes, well, that's what I'm here to talk about. This has been in my mind for quite some time. I like to write about older women. I'm 66, and I feel as though you can write about women your age or women around your age very authentically. And I imagine this woman, because our lives change so much. One minute we're the kind of center of our family, and then our family is growing up, and then they leave, and then, you might be on your own, or you might still be married. But there's your roles. For women, our roles are changing all the time. So I imagine this woman who's kind of a bit lonely. There's a lot of things happened in her life. And when we first meet her, she's a little bit grumpy. And as we get to know her, going back to the past, we start to see what her life has really been like and the kind of challenges that she has had to deal with. So in the meantime, she becomes responsible for her 15-year-old grandson, and they end up going on a road trip to find her husband, Ray, whom she hasn't seen for 30 years. So he went bush 30 years ago, and he was the love of her life, and that she has loose ends that she needs to tie up with him. So it was a lot of fun actually writing Zach, because 15-year-olds are pretty funny. Not at the time, but later they are. Oh, Kim, you read 60 Summers. Okay, great. Well, that was a lot of fun to write too. And again, writing about women of my age and my generation. I think one of the things that's really helpful when you're writing for your own age group, and older and younger, but in that general sphere, is that there's lots of nuances and lots of little details. I don't know if you remember, Kim, in 60 Summers, where the three women go into the restaurant in Paris, and they come out and they can't read the street sign, and one's got the wrong glasses, one's got one of the other women's glasses. And I have seen this so many times, and I'm sure you have too, but just people at a table, people who don't even know each other say, oh, have a look at this. Oh, I haven't got my glasses. Oh, you get somebody else's glasses and you pass them on, and then you wear their glasses and they all get mixed up. If you weren't of that age, you just wouldn't even know this complete silliness goes on when we all go a bit blind. So has that frozen for you, Mary? I'm getting a few messages. Oh, it's back now. Great. We're getting a Yeah, so Lovebirds was very interesting to write, and it was it was always going to be a crazy journey with a 15-year-old and his grandmother, and they have their own issues going on this road trip together because, for one thing, Zach hardly says any more than one word at a time. And so she's trying to find lots of things to talk to him about or engage him in conversation, which absolutely doesn't work. And they have a few experiences that are kind of, I'd say, there's one particular experience where they get bailed up by a goat and a man with a gun that is kind of leveling experience for her, that she starts to look to Zach to say, okay, what do we do now? In fact, she says to him, oh, now what do we do? And he says, well, you're always saying you're in charge. Let's see what you've got. So it was fun to write that kind of very, the dialogue has to be squeezed right down to its meaning or some very flip term. One of Zach's favorite terms is when she explains the way things are, he'll just say, debatable. In other words, I don't agree with you. I'm not going to bother arguing, but I don't agree with you, or it's up in the air as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, they sort of have their moments. But, yeah, somebody was saying, oh, Sandra Scully, you're looking for uplifting, happy, fun books to read. Yeah, I very much write what's called uplit. So what I try to do is really have authenticity, a lot of authenticity in the characters that come from things, really difficult times in my life that I think have given me quite a lot of empathy. And I suppose the people I see around me, the women that I see around me, people struggling with a lot of different things, but I like to kind of flip it on its head and see the humor in that. I mean, I'm sure that you have had that experience where something just terrible is happening, and particularly when you are with somebody you've known all your life. If you've got a friend 30 or 40 years, you've known each other, and we have long friendships, don't we, at this age? And suddenly you just say something funny and you're just kind of laughing. It's not because it's funny, it's because you need that kind of relief. And so that is really the basis of what I'm trying to write, is to have the genuine characters, but have moments that really make you laugh. What inspired me to become an author? Thanks for that question, Kylie. I always thought that I would be an author. I grew up in the country. I read books. We used to go every fortnight to the library in town, the whole family, get our books. We didn't have television. We would read books. And I just kind of assumed that I would be an author. I love the fact that, here you can have these little black marks on the page and you could be crying. You could be crying over a book or laughing. And I had this experience, and I've written about this on my website, when I was in high school. And the teacher read us something in the class, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I was just weeping with laughter. And I remember having my head down on the desk laughing. And when I looked up, all the rest of the class were just looking at me like, what is wrong with her? And I thought, oh, wow, can't you see how funny that is? That was hilarious. But no, apparently not. So I just had this odd sense that, we're on a kind of different trajectory. I have a kind of a different, I know lots of authors now have degrees in writing and PhDs and doctorates and all kinds of things. I don't have any of that. I am entirely self-taught. I left school at 16. I was in a hurry. I found school very, very boring. And I used to miss a lot of classes and go to the library and read. And so look how well that's worked out. And so, yeah, I just really just went on and educated myself, read everything I could get my hands on. I had people mentor me. I read all the great literature of the 19th century, 20th century. That was where I wanted to go. That was my vocation. My favorite authors growing up, well, my daughter's on here and she will laugh at this because my first absolute favorite book was Heidi. Did anybody else love Heidi? I think that was particularly inspiring in terms of being an author because, you know, I just had such a vivid sense of her world, even though I lived in New Zealand on a dairy farm. I could just be there with Heidi. You see, oh, we've got lots of Heidi lovers here. Heidi, 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 yay. Um, do you remember the sound, you know, that you could hear the kind of wind in the firs and the grandfather? And I used to have, did you ever have the bread in milk? Oh, Tracy, you've got to read Heidi. It's never too late. Oh, your dad read Heidi to you. It just was such a vivid story. And then I went on and Pollyanna, yes, and Anne of Green Gables, and when I was probably about 12 or 13, I started reading myths and legends. And in the library were these huge, big, fat books of all the myths and legends of Greece and Russia and England and all these various or Britain, and they in fact are the kind of groundwork of literature, of story, of plot. So they were incredibly educational for me. So Kylie's saying the Riddle of Trumpala. I don't know that one. That's interesting. Yes, Anne of Green Gables was wonderful, wasn't it? So when I don't know if you remember back in the library days, you had to be in the children's section and then you had to make this transition to go across to the adult section. And in that period, I read all the Agatha Christie's they had in the library. I think I keep saying there's about 26, but that's how many I think I read, because you could get, you could take out your maximum books for the fortnight and read them all and then come back and get some more. So again, I was laying the groundwork for learning a lot about writing through Agatha Christie's plots, the way that the kind of skeleton plot that she has in hers. Do I have another book in the pipeline? Well, there's this one at the moment. It's just come out. Look, I think most of us have a book in the pipeline because there's such a time lag. So this actually went to the publisher a year ago. And since then, I've been working on another book. The book I'm working on at the moment is it's a bit of a whodunit. It's set in 1965 in the rag trade in Sydney. And it is about 4 tea ladies who get together to solve a crime. So it's a lot of fun to write, and there's a lot of humor in it and lots of jokes about tea and biscuits, but it's also got the kind of twists of probably the French Perfumer. And I'm sure there's a few people on here who remember tea ladies. So I think the whodunit is a fun genre to write, and particularly when you are a pantser and you have to, you don't know what's going to happen next. You put something in there and then you have to work out how it got there. You have to kind of work backwards from there. So again, it's another fun read, and yeah, it's fun to write anyway. Have I read any Leslie Pierce books? No, I haven't heard of Leslie Pierce at all. Do you have any titles there, Kylie? I don't know that one. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. It's kind of an odd period right now for a writer when you have a book come out, and this Oh, Yvonne was a tea girl. Fantastic. When your book first comes out, you've got this week and then 2 weeks of really intense activity. And prior to it coming out, literally the day before, you've been able to have your routine where you sit down and you work and work and work. And so suddenly that's all thrown out the window and you're going hither and thither doing these events. So it is actually great now that we have more of these online events because, if you're working on a book, and I'm sure some of you are writing, you probably know that it's, yes, my daughter has brought up The Woman in White, which was an amazing book. So she had it in high school and kept saying to me, "Oh, Mum, you've got to read this Woman in White." I thought, oh, it seems like it's such a fusty old Gothic novel. But it was amazing. It's a really quite amazing book because it really gives you a sense of foreboding, how to create foreboding. But as I was saying, I think that if you are writing anything, somebody said that they are working on their novel earlier on, and writing every day if you can is incredibly helpful because it's not just getting the words on the page. It's about keeping it in your mind, of being able to, be in the car and be suddenly thinking, oh, this person's done this because of that. And so you're making those connections. And I actually use the recording device on my phone sometimes to just record those notes, and so I don't lose them. Have I read any Haruki Murakami? Yes, I have. In fact, I just listened to a podcast of one of his short stories the other day. I really like his work. So Bev also lived for her fortnightly library visits, and Agatha Christie's first adult books. There you go, common experience. And the library, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, they've pulled down the library that we used to go to. But in my mind, it was a really glamorous place, and I'm sure it wasn't. It was a country town in the middle of the Waikato Valley in New Zealand. It was a municipal library. How glamorous could it be? But I have this sense of it being carpeted and having panelled wood and all this kind of stuff, like it was, some amazing library. Oh, okay, Liar is Leslie's current book. Okay, I'll look out for that, Kylie. Do I have any input on covers? Well, I put my 2 bobs worth in. I certainly felt that I was becoming increasingly not very happy about the way the covers were going. And I'd be interested to know, those of you who've read 60 Summers, I didn't, oh, there's a thunderstorm coming. I didn't feel that the cover depicted the story, because I don't know, the cover to me just looked like it was a romance set in Paris, and it's absolutely nothing like that. It's about 3 women about to turn 60. Each of their lives are kind of falling apart in different ways, and they decide to get together. They're 3 friends who love each other, and they go off to Europe to try and retrace the steps of their 1978 backpacking trip. So as you can imagine, that's not really going to work very well. But, it's really more about them trying to reconnect with their youthful dreams. I don't know if you ever think about that, about who you thought you would be or the things that you wanted to do. So I did complain bitterly about that. And so then I got this other cover, which I absolutely love. It's got this movement. It doesn't label it as being it's a romance or anything like that. I really like it. So there's a couple of questions. I'll answer Lynette. Do you start at the beginning, work to the end? Yes, I do. But if I were to start at the beginning and get to the end, I might only, let's say I'm trying to write about between 90 and 100,000 words. I probably might get to the end and only have 80, 85. So I would be then going back and fleshing out scenes, putting more detail in the scenes. So they might be written in quite a mechanical way, but I would be putting in the details. Lovebirds, how did we come? Look, this book had a few titles, but what I do normally is I will send my editor half a dozen or 10 titles. And I really recommend that if you're writing something, is to not just have one title, but play around with it. And so Lovebirds worked really well because my character Elizabeth is her only real friend now, since she's just lost her best friend, is a budgie. And so it had that connection with the bird. And so I had a few bird titles, but the Lovebirds kind of relates to her and Ray as well. Yeah, it was one of half a dozen. And as soon as we saw it, we went, that's it. I mean, it's just sometimes it's eliminating things. When I was writing the French Perfumer, I had the title, which I knew was never going to be able to use, it was called the Parfumeur, which is French for perfumer. And so you can't use a foreign word on a book and in English. And so then the publisher just said, what about the French Perfumer? I was like, okay, that's ridiculously simple, but it works. Oh, there's a big thunderstorm on the Central Coast. Yeah, I can hear it booming out there. It's kind of cozy being in here talking about books, isn't it? Do I feel connections with characters in my books? Yes, I do, Kylie, absolutely do. I feel that I try to, I do empathize with all of them. I feel for Zach, even though he's 15, it was a very long time ago that I was 15, but I do actually remember quite a lot about being 15 and my kind of lack of self-awareness and the way, I don't know if you remember this, that you might speak to your parents and they say, oh, well, you're so rude. And you think, what are they talking about? I've got no idea, because you don't have that self-awareness. But yeah, I try to feel very much what my characters are feeling and make that connection with the reader. Mary's going to reserve Lovebirds from the library. Thank you, Mary. So I think that connection is incredibly important, so that the reader really has a lovely sense of who these characters are. So I think we're coming towards the end of our little chat here. I think you'll enjoy Lovebirds. You can send me, an email if you don't enjoy it, but it is written for women, and it's written about women, and I'm sure that you will come to like and empathize with my character Elizabeth, and I think you'll have maybe a couple of tears, but certainly a few laughs along the way. Lynette's going to bite straight away. Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Lovely to meet everyone. Thank you for coming on tonight. I think you will enjoy it. Thanks, Anne. We'll see you next time.